guys, welcome back. Oh my gosh, this has been like a crazy week and month. And a lot of times I have planned out what I want to say, and sometimes I just ask God to bring the right words to me, so and just like put on my heart what I need to talk about. So I got a couple of ideas, couple of things. I'm going to bring you another guest pretty soon, but there's a lot, right? There's a lot that you've learned about me. I would love to see some comments and things on our posts and on the podcast and stuff. That would be really cool. Like I see these other people and they have like, I don't know, like 2,000 comments, but I guess I should be careful what I wish for, right? Because sometimes there are people out there really mean. So my grandmother passed away last month. And it's been hard, and about me that I'm a recovering addict, not just drugs but food, right? And that I lost 75 pounds with Xyngular and all that good stuff. And this has become such a lifestyle that this last month I have eaten all of my emotions, like all of them. To give you a little idea about it, the night before my grandmother died, it started with Chinese food. And it was pretty much over the last 4 weeks, anything that I wanted to eat, pretty much any time. And I usually don't take in that many calories a day. But just to give you a little idea, so Thanksgiving turned out really great. Danny and I went to the Adolphus Hotel in Dallas, downtown Dallas. It was so cool. We were on the 17th floor. We were right outside where the exchange and the park is, and they had this big screen. Like I'm talking about a giant screen. Like I've never seen a TV screen so big. The night we got there, they were playing Top Gun Maverick. The next day, they had the Cowboys game on the screen, so we could just look out the window and see the score. And then the next day they had USA versus Denmark soccer. And it was like, they called it like Wednesday night when we got there, movie in the park. Right. And, it was so cool. Cause like there were people down below, like on blankets, and they were watching this movie and stuff. And it's just really cool. It was a really cool area to be in. It was hard to see a lot of the homeless people, especially at the holiday time. And it was cold and it was raining and it was yucky. It was terribly yucky here. So Thursday for Thanksgiving was a great day to stay in our pajamas. And I brought stuff from home to make like a homemade charcuterie board, meat and cheese tray, whatever you want to call it. And brought our favorite wine. One of my favorite wines is, it's hard to find. It's called Mama Peach. And it's like I don't know, it's a fizzy, bubbly Moscato that's like a peach flavor because I love peach. So anyway, so we had some wine, we had some cheese tray, we had that, right? But what I also made, I think I talked about last time, is I made a lemon icebox pie. And that's my grandmother's favorite pie, and one of Danny's favorites as well. And so by that evening, I was on my third piece of pie. Like we ate almost the whole pie on Thanksgiving Day. Before we left, I also made Rice Krispie treats, and I kind of messed up the recipe because I added too many tablespoons of margarine to it because I like mine with margarine, not butter. And I was thinking, let's make it real buttery. Yeah, it ended up being like they weren't fluffy; they were more like buttery. So it ended up being, I did a double batch. It ended up all fitting in one pan. So it was like 10 tablespoons of margarine and like 90 marshmallows and like 8 cups let's see. Yeah, like 8 or 9 cups of Rice Krispies, and it was all in one pan. Like the amount of calories per bite in that thing were just, I'm sure, ridiculous. So that's the kind of stuff I've been eating, right? Gummy bears and things like that. And so I decided this last Sunday was like the last hoopla. We went with Holly and Eric to Keeper Saul, which is one of our favorite places, on Saturday night, and had a good steak and stuff. So big hoopla, right? They make Bananas Foster in front of you with all the flames. It's a really cool place. So if you've never been and you are in Bullard, Texas, go to Keepersall. But here's the thing. It makes you feel like shit. Eating all that food, like my stomach was just so bloated and so yuck. And I felt like crap. I was lethargic, I was sleepy, I wanted to take naps, all that crap. And all that feeling started coming back of like how I used to eat before my lifestyle changed with all of this. So I started a jump start yesterday, an 8-day jump start. 5 to 15 pounds in 8 days is what you lose. My worst jump start, I think I only lost like 7 pounds. My best jump start, I lost like 14 pounds. And that was after we came back from Mexico year before last. So I'm hoping, I'm going for the 14 pounds this time. But I think I gained like 7 pounds over the last month, which is a lot for me. So I got 4 of those pounds off in a day eating clean. So that's what I like about this. Like I can go off the rails for a little while and I can lose my mind food wise, but then I know how to reel it back in and get myself back on track. And I never knew how to do that before, right? It was just this like perpetual cycle of oh, I'd gain weight and then I'd eat a cookie to make myself feel better. And then I'd stop drinking Dr. Pepper for 2 days and I wouldn't lose any weight and I'd get pissed and say, screw it and just keep going, right? And just go back to my old habits. So that's what I like about this, that I don't have to do that anymore. I know how to take it off. So makes it easy. The other thing I wanted to talk about was something that happened on my Facebook. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. So there was this, and I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers in this, but I don't really care. There was a girl who sent me a Facebook post, and it was for her son, and it was a GoFundMe, and it was to help him pay for college. And I'm not one, I don't give a shit if you're black, white, brown, purple, yellow, green. I don't care what color you are as long as you're nice to me. I'm going to be nice to you. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care where you're from. I'm just not a prejudiced person in any way, shape, or form. So I want to put that out there before I tell you that this was a Hispanic lady that sent this to me. And, you know, I ended up going live on my Facebook because it rubbed me the wrong way. Like it was like, she sent this and she was like, please help my son pay for, going for his master's. He's already made it through his associate's degree or he's going for his bachelor's or whatever. And he's incurred a lot of student debt. So here's a GoFundMe to help pay for it. And that crawled all over me. And I sent her a message back and I just said, why is it that you feel that your son should just have people give him money for college that he didn't earn, that he didn't work for, that he doesn't have to pay back? Like, I don't understand that mentality. Give me. And it's because I've worked since I was like 16 years old, right? And we taught our kids, like, they had to work. Our kids got jobs at 15, like at Brookshire's or iJump or wherever, that they could get a job at 15. Most of them started at Brookshire's. 2 of them started at Brookshire's. One of them started at a pizza place, and the other one started at a trampoline park. But we don't ask anyone to give our kids anything, And so it crawled all over me. I ended up doing a Facebook Live on it, and she saw it. I thought I had blocked her and whatnot, but apparently not. So she had seen it, and she, said something humorous or, just trying to be a smartass about it. And then she went through my Facebook feed, and she commented on one of my pictures. And it was a picture of my backyard. And those that know me know that I take serious pride. Danny and I both take serious pride in our backyard. The pool, the banana trees, like It's my favorite place, my favorite tropical place to be in the summer. It's why we built the backyard that we built, and we wouldn't be able to build that backyard without the hard ass work we've both put in for Xyngular, because Xyngular built that backyard. But this girl had the audacity to call me privileged. When I saw that, like, I was beside myself, because I'm not privileged. Yeah, I mean, if you've listened to my podcast from day one, I'm not privileged. So it led into a debate, and I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to go with this and what I want to talk about first, because I don't want to forget bits and pieces, and I don't have anything to write notes down. So I'll say this first. I've worked my ass off my whole life, starting at 16 years old. I had a job. Did I have parents that helped pay for stuff? Yes. Did I have money for a college fund? Yes. And I snorted half of it up my nose and blew the other half of it paying rent when I didn't feel like working, and fixing my teeth from all the things that I snorted up my nose. Right. But even with all of that, I've never in my life paid a bill late. I have a credit score of 891, which is pretty impressive. And I pride myself in that. And I may not have ever paid a bill late, and maybe my mom's helped me with groceries, and maybe my grandmother helped me for a little while both kids' dads were in prison, to help me pay daycare for about a year of my life. Yeah, that's happened. But for someone to have the audacity to not know shit about me and say that I'm privileged because of a picture on my Facebook from my backyard, it makes me warm on the inside to even think about this again, because it's not cool. None of us should be judging anybody. We don't know where we've come from or how hard we've worked to get there. I mean, I start working my business at, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I put it down at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, right? Sometimes even later. And that's what, like an 18-hour day. I work harder at this than I did any full-time job that I've ever had, right? Maybe physically it was more demanding, but this is like mentally demanding. But privileged is not something that I am. A hard ass fucking worker is what I am. That's for sure. I fought for everything that I have. So that just crawled all over me. And it started a debate. I made a comment on my Facebook Live that I posted about how, people don't raise little assholes. Make your kids work for stuff. Make them work for make them work for things because they appreciate it more, right? And we have this generation of entitlement that is just, it makes me sick. It makes me so sick, this entitlement that these kids have. So I want to tell you a little bit about what we've taught our kids and what we started doing with them at a very young age. And I hope this helps you. Like any of you out there with young kids, I mean, it's been really beneficial for our kids. So when Danny and I first got together, the littles were 4, and then the older 2 were 7 and 10, I believe. And so about a year after we got together, we came up with this plan of like, because we're trying to figure out how the hell are we going to afford cars for 4 kids? How are we going to afford college for 4 kids? How are we going to afford any of this for 4 kids, right? I mean, we lived paycheck to paycheck. It was, I worked a full-time job as a bookkeeper. I had a part-time bookkeeping job on the side. Danny worked full-time, and then Xyngular came along, and we both started I started working that, and then he picked up some of the things on that too. But we taught our kids at a very young age that they had to put money back. So whatever they got for Christmas money, whatever they got for birthday money, they had to put half of it back. They could spend half of it, but we opened a savings account for them, and they had to put half of it into savings. Okay. and that helped grow their savings account tremendously. They weren't allowed to touch the money for any reason at all, except for one time. They decided to be little shitheads like boys are, and they kicked a hole in one of the doors. And so we found out how much the door was going to cost to replace, and repaint and all that stuff. And we took an equal part out of all of their savings accounts to pay for that door. We figured that was fair. Like, our kids, there's been no free rides for them. So Danny's worked hard for everything he's ever had. I mean, at one point, he was like working full time at a dairy overnight. He would sleep in a parking lot for like 45 minutes. This is before we were ever together. He would sleep in a parking lot for a little while and then like do a paper route. Or maybe he would do the paper route and then sleep and then go to work at the dairy and then go home and sleep. And I mean, and he slept in shifts for years. Like, I don't even know how he did that. I couldn't even imagine. But we've both worked really hard for what we have, and neither of us are privileged in any way. So back to the kids. Sorry, I squirreled there for a second. So back to the kids. We taught them to save money, save in their savings accounts and things like that. The next thing that we made a deal with them about is Danny got a profit sharing check every year from the company that he worked for. And so it was doable, right? None of the kids, it was just Jacob and Gage that were getting cars the same year. So it was doable for the older two, and we would have figured it out for the last two. But the deal was that whatever they saved up in their savings account, we would match up to $2,000. Well, back then, this wasn't a big deal, right? Because you could get a decent car for like $4,000 when we had this planned. Not anymore, not after everything that's happened in the economy, but you could. So that's what happened. They all saved up money, and we matched up to $2,000. And Danny always said, like, if you save $400, you go get a real nice bike, because we'll match you $400. You can have an $800 bike, whatever. So we put it on them to save, like, okay. And it would make them question themselves, like, do I really want to just save half, or do I want to have more, right? And then they would do side things like to help the neighbors, and Gage would go down and to Miss Angie's house and pull weeds for like $10. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they were always little entrepreneurs, and making extra money in the neighborhood and stuff. So they would save some of that money too. And interestingly enough, like, we didn't pay for college for them. Like, I squandered all that money away because it was given to me. It wasn't anything that I earned or worked for. And so Colin, our oldest, he worked hard in school, and he got the presidential scholarship to go to TJC. And Brighton did not have the opportunity they weren't doing the TJC Promise, which is basically like, you sign an agreement as a freshman in this high school, and if you follow all the rules and you do everything you're supposed to do, then basically TJC has a scholarship fund that will pay for you to go to school for 2 years for free. It's a community college, right? Junior college, but I mean, that gets all your basics out of the way, right? Why would you not do that? So Colin got a presidential scholarship. Brighton got out of high school and was planning on going to the military. That was his plan. And that's a whole nother story one day. I'll have Dixie on one day and tell her story. That's a whole nother story. Sorry, I could go into a whole nother squirrel with that. So Colin got this presidential scholarship. Gage earned the TJC Promise, and Jacob hates school. Like, school is Jacob's least favorite thing in the whole world. Jacob is brilliant and smart, but school is stupid to him. So he did not earn his TJC Promise because he had to keep above a certain GPA. So Gage earned it. Jacob did not. Colin earned a presidential scholarship, and Brighton was planning to go military. So everybody was covered for college. We didn't have to pay for anything. Well, now that Jacob's in school, right, he's got to pay for everything out of his pocket. Like, we'll help you with some books, but we're not paying your tuition. Like, you had the opportunity and you squandered that away. And so now you got to figure out how to make it happen and how to work for it. Colin, I think, took out some student loans, and he got into education and then decided that was not for him. Too many politics, too much drama in education. So they paid for their own school, though. And here's our rule at home. If you are in school, you can live with us, right? As long as you're in school, you can live with us. Once you finish school or you decide to quit school, you have 1 year to save up money, work full-time. You're required to work full-time if you are not in school, to work full-time, and actually you have 1 year to move out. And we stuck to that with Brighton. We stuck to that with Colin. And we stuck to that. We're sticking to that with Gage and Jacob. So they'll probably be moved out next year. They're both, I think, just getting their associate's degree because they're entrepreneurs. Their hands are in so many cookie jars. It's crazy. And they're doing great. They're super motivated kids. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with paying for your kids' school, right? If you have the means to pay for it and you can write a check for school, then go for it, right? I'm sure you have rules for your kid to follow, and they have to maintain certain GPAs, and parents have rules, right? But this is what worked for us. And this is what worked for us as, like, a paycheck to paycheck income family. And even now, with us having the money that we have now, I still wouldn't pay for their college because I know what I did with it. Like, we even have it set in our will that that if something were to happen to us, our kids don't even get any money until they're in their 30s. Well, because boys are super immature, right? Girls are way more mature sooner. And boys are super immature, and they'll just go blow it and buy, supercars, right? So we wanted to plan for the future. We wanted our kids to work hard for what they had, so they appreciated what they had, right? And I have friends that have bought cars for their kids, and they've done for their kids, and their kids didn't have to work while they were in school, and that's great. But that's just not what we chose for our kids. We wanted them to have that work ethic. And here's the thing, too. They were required to have jobs at 15. Even if they were in extracurricular activities. Colin was in band. Jacob was in band for a little while before he started working. Gage was in swim. And he could have been in club swim. And he could have gone way far. But 13 practices a week and working part-time wasn't an option. And he would have rather made money than to swim like that. So that's the thing, is we let our kids make these choices, but they had to work. If they wanted to be in club, they still had to figure out how to work. We only required them to work 15 hours a week. It wasn't much, but they also had to pay their car insurance. Like, their car was already paid for. They didn't have a car payment, most of them. And they had to pay their own car insurance. And then once they turned 18, they had to start paying $50 towards their cell phone. And then once they got moved out on their own, after about a year on their own, they had to get on their own cell phone plan. That's the thing, is we're not kicking them out and say, here you go, sink or swim, right? But we're giving it in bits and pieces so they can learn responsibility and be productive members of our society. I think that's the biggest thing. I want them to teach their kids the same thing, right? I think that's important. I think there's more people in the world like us than there are wealthy people who just pay for their kids to go to school. And I think that there are a lot of kids that have student loans and student debt, and that was one of the things our kids did not want. They did not want any kind of student loan debt. So they made those decisions for themselves. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is, don't fucking call me privileged. And our kids either, right? And I see people's faces sometimes. Listen, we're not in a we have a 5-bedroom house. Before we moved and found this house, let me tell you a little story. So Danny and I and the kids were like, they were sharing rooms, right? Danny's kids were with us every other week. And we were 6 people crammed into like 1,400 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And that was great while the kids were small. And we started looking at houses going, okay. And, we'd spent money on, 6-panel doors and upgrading the light fixtures in the kitchen and, all the things that you want to upgrade in a house. And we started looking around online going, okay, let's figure out, because I was making some extra money. I wanted to be able to invest that money into a home for us, and not just, have it sitting in a savings account. So we were on the lookout. We started looking for this house or looking for a house. And then we were like, that's it. We can't find anything that we would have to, spend. I don't want to spend $150,000, $200,000 for a house that we would have to put everything into that we've already done in the house that we were in, right? It just didn't make sense to us. So we're like, okay, well, we'll take profit sharing money. We'll save it up for the next 5 years. We'll put a huge down payment on what we want. Man. Well, God had a different plan. I will tell you that, because the next morning we were like, and we just talked about it and we said, okay, we're done looking. And then the next morning, Danny gets an email for this house, and it's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, corner lot with a swimming pool. And for the most part, remodeled part of it. And he was like, we have to go. And it was only like, I think they were asking like $220. And at the time it was totally a buyer's market. I was like, okay, let's go look at this house. And we sat down and we did the numbers and we figured out where we could come in at. And we put an offer on the house by Friday. Like, we looked at it that Monday night and we put an offer on it by Friday. Holy shit, right? We offered $203 for it. We sold our house for full asking. So we made about $30,000 on it, and we put that money directly into the new house. And so basically that's the thing, is like, people see like the cars we drive and where we live, and yes, we make good money, but we're smart about it, right? We don't just blow it. We're smart about it. So yeah, we have this 5-bedroom house with a pool, but we only paid $78 a square foot for it. My house payment's only $1,200 a month. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were smart about it and waited for the right thing to come along. And then, like, for our cars, I watched this car. Like, Danny showed me a picture of, I have a Jaguar F-Pace. It's a little SUV, and it's black on black. It's like my favorite car. It's my dream car. And Gage and I were, Danny showed me this one night, and I was like, yeah, I really like that car. And I kept watching it. And Gage and I went and had a little ice cream date one night. And I was like, Gage, do you think I should buy the car? And he was like 15 at the time. And he's like, Mom, let me ask you 2 questions. And I said, what? And this goes back to like what we taught them. He's like, Mom, do you like the car? And I'm like, yeah, I love the car. And he's like, can you afford the car? Yes, I can afford the car. He's like, then just get the car, right? Like, it's fun to spend money sometimes. And I'm such a tightwad, and I'm so frugal that I'm not a big spender at all. God. I got the car. But we found such a great deal on it. Like, the car was like a previous lease, and this was like 2019. It was a 2017. It only had like 12,000 miles on it. The guy that owned it before had it in he worked out of the country, so it was in like an underground parking garage. The car still had plastic on the floor mats, right? And we got it for under $50,000. So I had a friend of mine in Xyngular, and she saw my car, and she was like, oh my God, I love your car. Would you kill me if I bought the same car? And I'm like, no, go ahead. I think that's a huge compliment, right? So she bought one brand new in 2019 and paid like $90,000 for it. So yeah, I totally got the better deal on that. And I'm good with that, right? I mean, Danny drove a Porsche. He's in an Audi now, but he drove a Porsche, and it was a Porsche Cayman, and it was a badass car, and he got it for like $48,000. Like, he just found it in Florida, and he drove to Florida and flew to Florida and picked it up and drove it home. And we taught our kids the same thing. Like, Jacob just found a little Audi that he likes, and it was all the way in New Jersey. So our 19-year-old kid, like, wheels and deals with this car dealership, flies to New Jersey and drives this damn car all the way back. This was just like a couple of weeks ago. Like, we teach our kids how to be smart about money and how to look for good deals. And so it may look like, that's why we hate having contractors over to our house, because once you see the house and the things that we've done in the house and the upgrades that we've done in the house, and then you see the cars in the garage, it, like, all of a sudden their prices go up. And it sucks that it happens that way, but they're thinking, oh, these people are rich, they've got money, look at the cars in the garage. But it's not. We're smart about it. So super frustrating that people just assume that we're privileged and assume that we have all this money. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't live paycheck to paycheck anymore, but we're not filthy freaking rich, you know. I mean, one day with Xyngular we will be. That's the hope. My guest Robin Packard that was on here, I can tell you this because she's probably not listening. That girl makes like $140,000 a month. That's goals right there. That's seriously, like, I'd be happy with like $50,000 a month. That'd be awesome too, right? We got a little ways to go, but one day we'll get there. Anyway, so little bits and pieces about us, little bits and pieces about things that you can do to help your kids save money, to teach your kids how to save money. And I don't know, I hope it was worth it to you. I hope it was worth it for you to listen. I would love some ideas from you guys that you want to hear me talk about, things that I've said maybe in passing that you're like, hey, that'd be a really great subject for you to talk about. Like, send it to me. Send me a message. It's Allison Unfiltered, or Allison.unfiltered on Instagram. I mean, is it a dot? I don't know. You'll find it on Instagram. But that's the thing, like, give me some ideas. What do you want me to talk about? What do you want to hear? What do you want to hear more of? What do you want me to elaborate on? What kind of guests do you want me to have? Like, give me some feedback, because I want to hear this. Like, I want to know what you guys want to listen to, not just what I want to talk about. So anyway, I am going to jump off here. Thanks to, Kimber Creek Media for setting all this up every Monday for me. It's actually Tuesday today, but every week to make sure that this podcast gets done and our listeners get taken care of. And so huge shout out to Kimber Creek Media. Also, huge shout out to my husband, who puts all this together every week and helps. Like, he loves this. It's good. I think it's a beating for him now, like, listening to the podcast, because he's heard it all, and we've talked all about all this stuff at home. So it's kind of like, a beating, but whatever. I'm grateful to you, babe. Thank you for doing what you do and for helping. Like, you're the best husband in the whole world. And I may not always be the best wife, but I definitely try. I do try. Anyway, you can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the good stuff. And also, please, 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 if you're listening to this, please like it. Please share it. Please subscribe. I'm not allowed to look at the numbers because it would be devastating to me. And I know how many things that I scroll through or listen to and don't subscribe and don't share with other people. But I can't help people. This won't get out to people if you guys don't share it. So please help out with that. Okay. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Peace out.